As we begin to talk about the political aftershocks of the French Revolution, I'm going to begin with conservatism. And in both our discussion of conservatism and liberalism, I think it's important at the outset to say, get every modern definition of these terms out of your head. You can only understand these in the terms of what is 19th century conservatism and what is early 19th century conservatism and what is early 19th century liberalism. So I'm going to try and take you through conservatism first. In our next lecture, its opposite, if you will, liberalism. Conservatism is, at this period, best exemplified by a figure we've approached before, Clemens von Metternich, the foreign minister of Austria, the leader of the Congress of Vienna. And what is conservatism about at this time? What motivates conservatives at this time period is great fear of the French Revolution. And more than that, they're anti the French Revolution, because as far as they're concerned, the chaos and violence brought about by the French Revolution wasn't something where the French Revolution went wrong. It's endemic or natural to what the French Revolution was. Of course the French Revolution was going to end with the guillotine and orgies of violence and all the like. That's the attitude of conservatives at this time. And in terms of understanding conservatism, I'm breaking it down in terms of these two trinities. At home, conservatives look to three primary interests. The throne, the king, the monarchy, landed wealth in terms of the landed aristocracy, and altar, the established church. These were the three elements of society that needed to be brought together. And the hope was that they would work together to solidify and stabilize the domestic situation at home and preserve it. Internationally, well, we've kind of covered that already. Conservatives look towards the, if you will, the Congress system, a trust in a balance of powers and a trust in existing borders. The important thing to note in this is you don't see, if you will, the conservatives that you might think of. You don't see big industrialists. You don't see big expansionary militarists. None of that's at place. This is the old vision of conservatism at this time, trying to preserve the system, preserve the peace, and preserve society as they saw it and as it was intended to be. So who were the conservatives of this time period? Well, they were largely made up of who you would think would be associated with the established church and all the like. You have aristocrats, you have large landowners, so that's representing landed wealth. They're people who champion community or traditional ideals of community. They're not looking for community in terms of working class identity or anything like this, but old standards of communal identity, old traditions, things like that. They're also even more concerned with the established churches, meaning the traditional churches. They're not interested in new church movements during this time period, such as, say, Methodism or anything like that. They want the true, staid, established churches, which they believe are, again, like the Congress system they're trying to promote, stable, solid, unchanging, something they can trust. And so that's conservatism in the main during this time period. Now, there is another example of conservatism at this time. Edmund Burke. He's a British conservative, often labeled the father of modern conservatism, who represents a different strand of conservatism at this time. If you will, Metternich was concerned with, if you will, stopping all change. He wants stasis, he wants protection of the existing situation, nothing more. Burke believed something else. Burke did not believe that change was impossible, but he did think that the French Revolution had gone wrong in terms of how it attempted to change. Namely, he believed that change would only be peaceful, change would only be beneficial if it was gradual and was done through the institutions, through the established orders of society as they existed. And so in this, what you should recognize is there's a belief that change can happen, but it just needs to be slow and gradual. As far as Burke was concerned, the problem of the French Revolution was that they tried to upend all of society all at once, change things too rapidly, and that, of course, led to the violence. So again, what you see in here are two different strands of conservatism. Burke championing preservation of traditional societal structures and organizations and using them to gradually bring about change, and the attitude of those like Metternich, who are standing athwart change, trying to push back against it, trying to prevent it in all its forms, whether talking about domestically or internationally. And that's a quick summation of what constitutes conservatism in the early 19th century. In our next lecture, we'll turn to its opposite, if you will, which is liberalism of the early 19th century.